What does Colossians 3:17 have to do with the use of instrumental music in worship? Colossians 3:17 reads, "And whatsoever you do in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God and the Father by Him." To do something in the name of means by the authority of. When you send someone to the bank to do your business, they act upon your name or your authority. When the police go into someone's door and they knock and say, "Open the door in the name of the law," that means they have the authority to command you to open that door. Colossians 3:16 demands that we have a "thus saith the Lord" for all that we say and do. Since singing is something we do, we must have a "thus saith the Lord" for it. So the question is, where does God tell us to use mechanical instruments of music in worship? The answer is nowhere. If we use them, we do so without the authority of God, because we cannot point to any place in His Word to authorize or to prove it. Some say God did not say we couldn't use them, but consider this. If you take a prescription down to the pharmacy, you just drop off one and you come back a few hours later, and therefore the pharmacist has filled that, and now he's added to that not just one, but two or maybe three other drugs. Would you in turn ask him, "Why did you do that? Why did you add to the prescriptions I had?" He would actually be in big trouble, wouldn't he? What if he in turn replied and said, "Well, the doctor didn't say I couldn't make those additions"? Why isn't that the same when it comes to God? Who are we to act on our own and not on the authority that God has given us? The following verses condemn acting on your own. Revelation 22:18 and 19. "For I testify unto you that every man heareth these words of the prophecy of this book. If any man shall add unto these things, God shall add unto him the plagues which are written in this book. If any man will take away from these words of this prophecy, God will take away from him the part of the book of life and out of that holy city from the things which are written in this book." 2 John 9 says, "And whosoever transgresseth," that means to go beyond, "and abideth not in the doctrine of Christ, hath not God. He that abideth in the doctrine of Christ hath both God, the Father, and the Son." Some therefore contend that since we use the Psalms in singing, Ephesians 5:19, Colossians 3:16, and the Psalms are found in the Old Testament, then we can use that or anything else out of the Old Testament, including instrumental music in worship. However, Psalms can be used to sing praises to God because of Ephesians 5:19 and 3:16, but they tell us to sing them. These passages do not tell us to play them. What men like or what sounds good to us is not the point. The question is, what does God tell us to do? Also consider this. For one to appeal to the Old Testament to support the playing of instruments of music shows that nothing can be found in the New Testament to authorize their use. For if it could, why wouldn't they use that as a point? Some also contend that mechanical instruments are used in heaven. Therefore, we can use them now. However, the question is not what may or may not have been used in the Old Testament, or for that matter, will be used in heaven. The question is, what does God tell us to do now in the church? If God wanted us to use mechanical instruments of music, He certainly would have told us that, right? Those who contend for such a thing have the burden of proof upon them to support their action. So if you support instrumental music being used in worship, we challenge you to simply point to the passage that authorizes you to do it. But I'll tell you up front, it can't be done.